Greetings, dear viewer. Animals are so incredible that we humans don't give them due importance. One of their most underrated qualities is their ability to form strong bonds with people. A girl lived in our village alone, inconspicuous. I went all by myself, I didn't meet anyone. Her mother was despotic, almost a religious fanatic, did not let her daughter go anywhere from herself. She didn't let me wear fashionable clothes. Not to dance, not to gatherings did not let. Nura did not argue with her mother, and where to argue there, she almost immediately grabbed a twig. And if not with a twig, then she filled up her daughter with work. Work says bad thoughts expels. It was rumored that because the Nyurka's mother was so despotic that she worked up a Nyurka herself. She believed one handsome man, and he left her pregnant, so she turned on all the men and took up arms. Nyurka shied away from the guys. One of her joys was when Nyurka turned 18, she was allowed to work on the farm, there were no men there, only milkmaids. The farmer himself was an aged peasant, married in the opinion of the mother, and the nurse did not pose a threat to the piety of her daughter. When Nyurka started going to work, she blossomed. She was a kind, sociable girl. However, this was also the reason for the punishment of her mother. You're too happy to come home from work. Who's you don't work there, but you hug guys, you dirty girl, her mother yelled at her. Yes, what are you mom, where are the guys from? You saw for yourself that only women work there, Nura defended herself. Yes, now all women are spoiled, you don't listen to them. They will say all sorts of things to you and about me, you shut your ears and don't listen, and now go and saw the stove, the mother sternly ordered. Well, I'm tired, Mom, Nura tried to object. Here, you've already learned to contradict your mother. And what is it that you're tired? Go sawing before I make you clean the pipe yet, her mother yelled at her. After all, they sawed only that week, said Nura. And now, because you're too lazy, will the stove be dirty? Say the mother. In general, only a stupid one did not see that Nurkin's mother went crazy. Her mother completely suppressed her will and psyche. Apparently the girl was afraid that her mother would see some kind of joy on her face. It was just the height of submission. There was an old horse on the farm, he was already sick. I ate, walked and enjoyed life. Nura became friends with him. Since her mother did not allow her to communicate with people, she would not be against the horse. Nyurka brought treats to the old horse, most of all he loved stale bread. While he was chewing bread, Nyurka was stroking him and braiding pigtails. When she came home, Nyurka talked about how affectionate and smart the horse was. But even here the mother did not find joy for her daughter. You tell me again that you fell in love with him. And why do you have to be attracted to someone? Why can't you be a self-sufficient girl, the mother grumbled. And then suddenly Nyurka got sick, she became ill right at work. An ambulance was called and without regaining consciousness she was taken to the hospital. She's probably pretending to rest in the hospital, but doctors are making eyes, Nyurka's mother grumbled when she was told that her daughter would not come home, she was in the hospital. The next day, the mother went to visit her daughter, did not take anything with her, not even a candy. Well, what are you doing here? You decided that you would rest here and build eyes for doctors. It won't work. Get ready to go home, the mother yelled at Nura. Woman, you are not alone here, there are sick people lying here, other patients besieged Nurkin's mother. Your daughter has cancer, the doctor said at the examination of Nyurka's mother. And what, now she can't do anything around the house, asked Nyurka's mother. Woman, are you in shock? I'm telling you, your daughter has cancer, in the 4th degree. The stage is not even operable, she will die, the doctor snapped at Nurkin's mother. Well, then we'll bury it, the old woman grumbled and went home. Until the discharge, the mother no longer came to Nura. The girl was so hurt, she didn't even have time to live. And the short time that fate gave her was already spoiled by her mother. Almost a year after her discharge from the hospital, Nura died. Many gathered for the funeral, the milkmaids came from work, the girls who went to school with her came. Many were crying. Only the mother did not shed tears, she stood like a stone. "Stop snotting around here already. God gave, God took," the old woman grumbled. Suddenly, there was a sudden trampling. An old horse was flying like a whirlwind with dust. He jumped straight into the pit and began to trample on the coffin lid. The horse was big and heavy. No one dared to stop him. He continued to jump and break the boards, until strange sounds were heard from the grave. The horse started trampling the coffin, throwing himself into the grave during the funeral. When it cracked, people heard crying. Hearing them, the whole village shuddered. It was a baby crying, and everyone who attended the funeral was in shock. Where could the child have come from? The men decided and approached the horse, which continued to trample the coffin. They took him by the reins and took him aside. "What are you standing for? Bury it soon," Nura's mother screamed. "Grave, grave!" One guy jumped into the grave and took out a newborn baby. Where could a small child have come from in Nyurka's grave? "Take him back and bury him," yelled Nyurka's mother. "I had to call an ambulance and take the old woman to a mental hospital." The district police officer conducted a whole investigation and found out. It turns out that after the hospital, Nura came to the village pregnant. She hid it for a long time. Nura was adamant. She knew that she would die anyway and decided to keep the child. Nura gave birth at home and only managed to hold the baby in her arms a little. The girl's mother decided that the child would be her shame and hid his appearance. After preparing to bury her daughter, she put it with her. And only the old horse, feeling that a misfortune had happened to her friend, and the child she had borne, ran to save him. Only thanks to the horse and his determination, he was able to save the child. The history of horses begins with the humid and dense forests of the American continent. 60 million years ago, graceful creatures first began to walk there. But did they look like that? It is believed that the progenitors of horses were no bigger than a dog and were called eohippuses. The eohippuses somewhat resembled a small fawn, except that the hooves had several fingers at once. Over time, all these fingers fused into one, a hoof. The progenitors ate grass, leaves, fruits and other plant foods. The little horses had plenty of enemies, so nature rewarded them with strong legs that kept them in the swamp and helped them escape from predators. The color was not always spotted, sometimes there were striped individuals, but this did not affect the abilities of eohippuses in any way. Soon the horses begin to acquire a familiar appearance and become Ankyteria. Ankyteria outwardly began to resemble small ponies, and the growth is just the same. The hooves slowly fused together, forming 3 fingers. The enemies, as before, loved to eat small horses, but the latter, in turn, began to run faster and learned to jump high, which helped a lot not to become an extinct species. The color of these creatures was almost no different from the rest of their kind, so they, like zebras in our time, could form one single running bunch of horses, and the predator would not be able to distinguish in any way where the beginning and the end of one individual. The next link in the development of horses is the hipparions. They played an important role in the further development of the structure of graceful creatures. The hipparions looked very much like a gazelle. Probably it was during this period that the horses separated from them. Surprisingly, this kind of horse did not change its hooves, and they remained 3-toed. Only now hooves appeared on each of the fingers, which made it possible to walk on loose and mountainous surfaces. As for the jaw, it was pushed forward more strongly. This helped to chew very hard and dry food. The hipparions have also become hardier. Over time, hipparions began to live with pliohippuses, but the moist soil began to be replaced by steppes and pliohippuses turned out to be more adapted. Pliohippuses were very different in color, which is why they initiated the development of zebras, donkeys, colons and tarpans. Their hooves finally changed and became similar to the hooves of modern horses. The horses began to split into groups of their own kind, that is, they will be divided by color. So the species were formed. Of course, before the modern horse, the Pliohippus needs to change a little more, but the strength, endurance, speed and ingenuity of the progenitors already had. That's the end of our journey into the past. We learned a lot about graceful and strong horses, but there is still something to learn. I hope you were interested to learn about these beautiful creatures, because we must respect what we have now. If you liked the story, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like it, and share it with friends and family.